Alright, I'm Clifton COF, and I'm pro-abortion. And I believe that abortion lowers crime rates. And my supporting details would be, it lowers the number of children in low-income families, reduces child abuse, and it decreases the number of foster kids. And basically, everyone knows the benefits of abortion. Basically, low-income families will avoid having a kid. Why is this important? It's important because low-income families tend to neglect their children, and child neglect leads to many problems with children, often leading to crimes. Single women will no longer need to raise a child. They have a choice to raise a child or just abort it. Crime rates changed once abortion was made legal. Abortion was legalized in 1975. After legalization, 20 years after legalization of abortion is when you actually see when crime rates start to drop. In 1985, which is around the time when, 1985 which is around the time when children from the era of, or children that would be born in 1975 would be around the age of 17 or in their teenage years. The crime rate would be 12,431,000. In 2000, it drops to 11,608,000. And during that time, the population of America is growing. So if it drops in any way, in states that use abortion, crime rates tend to be dropped even more. In California, 1985, 1,718,000 crimes were reported, and in 2000, 1,266,000 crimes were reported. And in Alabama, in 1985, 158,000 crimes were reported, and in 2000, 202,000 crimes were reported. So basically, in states that do support and encourage abortion, crimes do drop. And in Alabama, a state that doesn't support abortion as much, actually had their crime rates lifted. What does this have to do with, so how does abortion actually change crime rates? It changes it through the parents. So parents won't need to raise children if they didn't, want them. So only parents that want their children or plan for children will have the opportunity to have children. 57% of women in low-income families get abortions, which means that plenty of and blacks are 12% of the nation's population and account for 31% of the nation's abortions, and Latinos are 13% of the population that account for 20% of the nation's abortions, which means that most low-income families are or tend to be black and Latino, which means that just lost my train of thought. Which means that they also account for the nation's crime rates, and since a good majority of them are being eliminated or decreased, the crime rates will fall because there's no children on the streets without parents that love them committing crimes. And that leads me to my second argument, which is neglected children will go down in numbers. And children that suffer from abuse are 9 times more likely to commit a crime. And with abortion, those children will be, brought down in numbers, which means crime rates will go down. And most children that will be raised will have parents that love them and want to, and could afford them. And that leads me to my next argument, which is, well, I'm going to lead into it by saying that children, that's my chain of thought again. Oh, well, when there's child neglect cases, they take the children from the parents and put them in foster homes. And in foster homes, foster kids are twice as likely to commit crimes at the age of 17 than a child with their parents as their caregivers. So that means that foster kids are more likely to commit crimes than the kid with parents that love them. And my grandmother was a foster parent, and one of her children, or one of her foster kids, was abused by his father and put into a foster home. And while he was in the foster home, he didn't commit any crimes. But one of his foster brothers ended up killing him because he was in a gang. And that leads me to my second point is abortion will decrease the number of children joining gangs. And Chief of Police of Conroe ISD Police Department, William J. Arns, said that children join gangs for financial reasons and family problems, which means that basically low-income families tend to neglect their children, as I said. And when these low-income families have the ability to choose abortion, they can they can abort their child and not have the ability to raise a kid and not neglect that kid or abuse him or her. And District Attorney Mitchell R. Morrissey said the same thing as the Chief of Police Department, William J. Arns. And that's the conclusion of my speech.
All right, well, the propositions identified at the beginning, the secondary claims are laid out pretty well. In the body of the speech, though, you're not as clear at labeling those points, and it seems like some of the points get a little bit confused. The issue of neglect is mostly asserted here, that the neglect is a result of not being an aborted child, of being a child that's actually born. And I'm not sure that there's a correlation here between neglect and abortion. That seems to be the thing that is missing in your argument. The notion that neglect is related to crime, I think that you do a pretty good job on that. The notion that neglect is related to abortion, that's the part of the chain that I think is a little bit problematic. The example that you cite of the foster kids at one point, for instance, suggests that the foster kid who was abused was the victim in this particular situation, which makes it not clear how it fits into your example. I didn't understand the statistics that you're presenting comparing California and Alabama. Since abortion is legal in both places, what is the difference between them, and why is one having a bigger impact on crime in that state than the other? That's not particularly clear. Your explanation about the 20-year time lag thing, I think that makes a little bit of sense, but we should be seeing that wherever there is abortion available, and it seems like if it's a nationwide issue that's been legalized. I know that you made a change in the years. It's 1973 that the court made its ruling, by the way, not 1975. That's just a minor issue there. And like I said, it's not clear to me why there's a difference between California crime rates and Alabama crime rates. There might be some other explanation, and you don't really account for those sorts of things. I think that's a little bit problematic. You are a couple of minutes over time. I thought you did a good job trying to speak to us, but you did get lost a couple of times. Your hands in your pockets look a little defensive. It sounds like you needed to practice a little bit more, and that would enhance your credibility. And, getting rid of the Notre Dame shirt would enhance your credibility a little bit too. All right.